With the extra point, this is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. And Greg, with college football coming back in the Pac-12 and for USC, going to hear what the schedule is, that 6-game regular season should be sometime this coming week. What would you like to see? If you could kind of set out the USC schedule, how would you like it to kind of roll out this year?
Well, it was kind of like sweet and sour sauce to me. You know, there's some sweet parts that I think is going to happen, some sour parts. My biggest disappointment was that they couldn't even release a schedule yesterday. I mean, if you're only going to play basically 6 games plus, championship weekend or championship day, whatever they've decided on, they couldn't give you that. And they couldn't give you any more information on the championship weekend other to say that the 2 teams that were the best in the North and the South will play on a Friday night. And I did like the matchups idea of the 7th game being the number 2 in the South against the number 2 in the North, because even if you're in last place, at least you're going to play a competitive game against somebody else. So I was all good with that. I thought that was really a good idea. Now, that being said, the question is, if you're going to play everybody in your conference, okay, or your division, I should say, and one out of division. So the question becomes is, who does that out of division team be? So not to belabor the point much, but I looked at the South schedule, which figures, depending on the sequence of games, to be about the same. In other words, you're going to have the same teams coming to the Coliseum that would be going to the Coliseum normally. And USC is going to play 3 away games, which they were scheduled to play. So here's the deal. I looked at it, having, of course, a master's in athletic administration. I put my administrator's hat on, and I said, if you're going to be fair about it, you would want to have 3 home games and 3 away games. So I said, okay, the competitive balance out of conference or out of division, that 3rd spot in the Coliseum should be filled with an out of division team. So I go, okay, who would that best likely to be? Well, who was supposed to come to the Coliseum anyway? Cal or Washington? Okay, that was basically. So I said, okay, I would say, and you can disagree with me, Cal is closer to Los Angeles than Seattle is. So it's not going to be a question of fans coming to the game from the Bay Area because nobody can watch the games anyway. So my thought was, it'll be Cal. And that way you got 3 home games, 3 away games. It's all fair. And I would imagine that's the domino effect across the conference. I would hope it, if it can be worked out, because it would be, you talk about competing for the college football playoff consideration. How wouldn't you say if you only had 2 home games and 4 away games that the deck is stacked against you? So you'd want to have equity, 3 and 3. So I'm going to go with the out of division game is going to be Cal. And I'll tell you, the big winner will be the Pac-12. And the reason is SC was supposed to go to Oregon. Okay. You don't want SC playing Oregon in a truncated season. Okay. It's going to be a downer for both teams. There's no win-win in that, even if you win the game. And so what would be the most appealing Friday night championship game? It would be SC versus Oregon. Can you imagine 2 undefeated teams in the Pac-12 and the winner advances to the college football playoffs? Well, we know that that's not a given, far from it, but the logic is there. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, I think the idea will be to try to keep the schedule this year as close to what it was, so that now you're not, you don't have a team playing at another team 3 years in a row, because you don't really want to shake up that 2021 schedule to do anything with what you're doing here. So the idea of keeping those 4 California teams together kind of makes sense. USC plays Stanford or Cal, UCLA plays Stanford or Cal, and that's your crossover game. I think what's going to be absolutely interesting to watch is, does the Pac-12 try to do themselves a favor with scheduling? Like you said, do they just come out of the box and have Oregon play USC because, we'll try to match things up so that things are even, so you don't have an Oregon, getting an Arizona or a Colorado? No, you have to do that. That's if you're the Pac-12, you have to do that. You have to try to give those teams a little bit of the benefit. And I know that goes against kind of everything that they've done the last few years, where everything has to be fair. And you know, we don't want to show any favoritism for somebody. No, that's not the way to go here. Like you said, you want to try to set up a couple 6-0 teams in that championship game. And really, I don't think you have to go that far out of your way to make sure that happens. I think a thing that's interesting in the intra-divisional games for USC, talking about playing the Pac-12 South, UCLA USC was going to be that season opener. I mean, when they went to just a conference schedule, that game was put right up front. And again, the idea was certainly, no, that's going to get kicked all the way back, and we're going to postpone that. So I now that there, you know, that there is no postponement, you're playing every single week all the way through 6 weeks in a row. My guess is that game gets stuck at the end, and maybe you start with that game against USC, would start with that game against the North opponent. And I think that kind of makes sense. You know, you don't need to decide the South, you know, on the first week of the season if you've got a USC Arizona State or a USC Utah. But when you look at it, there just aren't a lot of options to be able to sort of hide that first game for everybody, where you get sort of a warm up, because they made the decision that that game against the team from the North, and for the North teams, the game against the South, that counts in the standings. That there was some thought that, okay, maybe that game doesn't count, so you can lose that game and still, you know, not be behind anybody in your conference. If you run, you know, through the or lose a conference game and end up, you know, playing Oregon or playing USC going across, and then the team you're tied with at the end, you know, they got one of the lower ranked teams. That's going to be tough to deal with when it was such an imbalance in terms of the scheduling. But it's also something where pretty much everyone involved has said, "Hey, we'll play whoever. Just let us play. We'll get out there and we'll take them on." So
I
again, the
think
idea of, like you said, playing a Cal, playing a Stanford, something like that to lead it off, and then getting UCLA right at the end of the year, that would seem to make a lot of sense.
Well, I think your point is really well taken, because most teams play. SC was scheduled to play against Alabama, okay, and then New Mexico, right? So those would be out of conference games. By the way things have shaken down, if you're going to start off with that same idea, you start off with an out of division game. This way you'll get momentum, build up. What I'd like to see is USC and UCLA play at the end of the season, and all the rival schools play on the same day. So you would have rivalry weekend. So you'd have a build up. You know, the fact of the matter is, you know, one thing we really didn't take into consideration is this idea that if they get to the championship game, if they don't go to the college football playoffs, that doesn't mean they're not going to a bowl game. In theory, they would still be going to a bowl game somewhere. It could be the Fiesta Bowl. It could be somewhere else. But I think it's really the sequence of games that really make a difference to me. I would not want to see the out of division game played in the middle of the season. I think it's ludicrous. You wouldn't want it at the end either. So I think some of the stuff you brought up were points well taken.